I think there's a part of me that doesn't think they're going to die. I mean, I am, but also, am I? Yeah, probably am going to die, aren't I? Everyone else does. Although, no one who's currently alive has ever died. So that gives me some hope. If you take a random sample of 100 people, 0 of them will have died. So maybe we're overreacting when it comes to this whole death thing. I could be an immortal being. We just don't know. But it's unlikely. I could be some sort of deity. I don't think it's narcissistic to think I could be the second coming of Christ. Did Jesus know he was Jesus straight away? I'm 25. I reckon he knew by 25, didn't he? But when Jesus was a kid, did he know he was Jesus? Did he know he was the Son of God at school? Because if so, that would have given him a massive advantage in the my dad can beat up your dad conversations you have at primary school. I remember when I was a kid, I found out that another kid's dad was my mum's landlord. And I felt proper inferior. Felt like that kid owned me. God's like everyone's landlord. But did Jesus know everyone was his bitch? When did God first talk to Jesus? When was he first like, how you doing, mate? Heads up. You're my son. You've got superpowers. Everyone's your bitch. I know God let Jesus' mum raise him mainly, didn't he? Typical runaway dad. For someone who's omnipresent, God was an extremely absent father. One thing in God's favour on that note, though, is that what Mary did have him while he was a kid every day, like 7 days a week. But now Jesus is dead, God's got him at his house for the rest of eternity. So maybe on balance, he was well within his rights to not take him to the cinema at weekends. But there you go, Jesus died, didn't he? Even he wasn't immortal. I was proper gutted when I found out Jesus died. Genuinely cried so much. I think that was like the first time I was confronted with death. Probably in reception or year 1, like 4 or 5 years old. And I'm guessing it was Easter time, and our school broke the news to us that Jesus passed away. And I went home and I cried to my mum, and she had to console me. Also, I was gutted at how young he died. He was like 33, wasn't he? That's no age. That's no age to go. I think when I was about 5 as well, I thought everyone died at 100. Like, I remember having that as my conception of when life ended. I guess because it's sort of a round number and it vaguely makes sense. Even that scared me. I realise now that would be like a great age to live to. You've had a proper good innings if you make it to 100, but just the idea that there was a limit on life freaked me out. I remember being 5 and being like, shit, I've only got 95 years left. I better get my act together. I need to learn joined up writing and find myself a wife. The clock's ticking. And we all know we're going to die, but we don't talk about it that much. It's a weird how much of a taboo it is to bring up death, considering it happens to all of us, and it's so ever present. It'd be like if it was a taboo to bring up the fact that we breathe. It's not joked about that much at comedy gigs, I don't think. It is a bit, but not a lot. Like, every comedian should have their take on death. It should be hack at this point. Instead of people being annoyed at like a bunch of 20-year-olds talking about dating, or middle-aged people talking about their kids, or old people talking about how great it was when you could be racist, people should be annoyed about the sheer amount of death talk on the comedy circuit. How was the comedy show, Ed? Yeah, a bit boring, to be honest. Just one floppy-haired prick after another giving their view on the finite nature of existence. People don't like to be reminded they're going to die, do they? Which is fair, because I don't like it either. People don't like deadlines, and death is the ultimate deadline. So I do get it. I guess the benefit on reflecting on death a bit more is that you're more prepared for it when it comes, either for you or for someone you know. It's like preparing for an exam. It's better to do a little bit every day rather than cramming for it the day before it happens. When I'm faced with death, I want to be like, all right, I know what this is. I'm well prepared. I've done the required reading. I'm going to ace this. Otherwise, it's overwhelming, isn't it? Also, that deadline of death does make you spring into action, doesn't it? Makes you think I've got to achieve my goals and that. Like, my dad died a couple of years ago, and I've talked about that on another video. But like, and aside from all the obvious emotions, that made me just think about how like short life is, and you gotta live while you can. Like, you know, I'm gonna die. I mean, that was my dad, but even when a celebrity dies, I get that feeling. Like Sean Locke's death last year proper made me think about how I've got to get stuff done before I die. And then, like I said, Jesus, when I was a kid. It has to be a person, though. It doesn't work for me as much on animals. I don't know if that's speciesist. But when I was a kid, I had a bunch of goldfish die. And I was never like, right, I've got to follow my dreams now. It does genuinely slip my mind that I'm going to die as well. I can't just keep relying on people around me dying to remind me that death is a thing. But yeah, life is finite, and we do have to make the most of what we got, don't we? I tell you what, though, I don't believe in that live each day as if it's your last thing. I think that would make you too panicky. I reckon you want to live as if you've got about another year left. Because that's enough time to finish a few projects, get a bucket list done. I'd say minimum, live as if you've got about a week left. Enough time to get a big shop in. Because you don't want an empty fridge on the last week of your life. Also, don't tell people you're dying. Because I've read that advice before of live each day as if it's your last. And I've made a few phone calls to break the bad news to people. Because that's what I would do in that situation. And it's upset a lot of family members unnecessarily. It is good that you die, though, because otherwise nothing would mean anything. Like, people say because you die nothing means anything because it's just over, but at least under the current circumstances of like, oh, we're going to die one day, it makes it it feels like stuff matters while you're alive, doesn't it? Whereas if you were just going to live forever, all your achievements would be like pointless, because you'd be like, eventually enough time would pass to make that achievement seem insignificant. You'd be like, oh yeah, I won this award, but it was 4 trillion years ago. You'd procrastinate a lot as well, because you could always put stuff off for another billion years. I wouldn't have done this video if I could live forever. I'd be like, oh, I'll do it later. Like, think of how much we procrastinate knowing that our lifespan is finite. If we were all immortal, Netflix's stock would be through the roof. Anyway, those were my thoughts on death. Hope you found them useful or enjoyable in some way. Because life is finite and you're never getting these moments back. See you next time.